Hello guys, in this video I'm going to show you a lot of different tips on using Booleans in polygon programs such as 3ds Max and Blender. Now before I get started, I just want to say a quick note about why I deleted my videos. Now a lot of people are upset that I deleted my videos, but I want to explain very quickly my reasoning behind them. So previously on my channel I had many videos on Booleans. I don't know how much, but I must have had over 2 dozen. So I just want you to think about this. If you were to go to my channel and look at Booleans, you would have to go through dozens of videos and spend hours of your life. But now, instead of doing that, I've deleted those videos and now you get to see an up-to-date video with all my latest knowledge and techniques and things I've learned. So instead of having to sift through hours of content to find some nuggets in there, you can now just watch 1 or 2 videos that concisely give you up-to-date information using Booleans. So I think in the long run, guys, this is a win-win situation, because you get to see, up-to-date videos and it's all very concise, all my latest things that I've learned about using Booleans. So that's my rationale for why I deleted a lot of my videos, because I'm a big believer in having less higher quality content than just a bunch of low quality content. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I recommend when using Booleans is to have the topology set up for a good subdivision, or whatever you want to do. So for example, in this here, I will have, I'm going to use auto grid, and I'll create a cylinder right on top. I'm going to place that down there. Alright, so in this situation, let me make a copy of that as well. So in this situation, if I just, I've got Alt V set to Pro Boolean, right? If I just delete that, here's the problem. If I want to do subdivision, you want to make sure you have loops kind of going across here. You want to make sure you have loops going here. But because there's a Boolean here, you notice how we get these strange problems happening here. So, inserting a loop here, I mean, here it's kind of possible, but you can see it just gives us strange problems, and then we kind of have to, kind of work around it, and so it just becomes kind of a headache. What I recommend is before you do the Boolean, you set up your topology, and you kind of isolate the Boolean. That's how I look at it. You kind of isolate the Boolean like this. And maybe you want to kind of isolate it like right here, kind of like that. And that way, when you subtract, when you're using Pro Boolean here, you want to go into Advanced Options and click on No Edge Removal. That way, instead of dealing with the issues here and kind of setting up the loops here, the loops are all set up. All you have to do now is deal with kind of collecting this as well. Alright, so that's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, guys, is you want to make sure to choose the right number of sides if you're using cylinders, or just the right amount of complexity. So I'm going to go ahead and to select this, and I can just, as a copy, I can extract that, right? So I can extract this, and I can select this. This is a nice feature for Boolean. I can select this, and then as a copy, I can extract that as well. So that's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2 is, so right now, by default, 3ds Max creates 18 sides and 5 height segments, which is kind of a bad default value. So we're going to make sure this is set to 1. Alright, so what's a good value here? Well, depending on how complex your object is, and here dealing with a very flat surface, we can even go with something like 6, guys. Right? So all we have to do is just Boolean that away. And now, instead of having to deal with, let me get rid of this hot pink color. And by the way, guys, if you don't want to create, here it's set to assign random colors. If you just turn that off, it'll always be set to your last created object, select the color right here. So now if I create a bunch of boxes that are all going to be gray, whereas if that option is turned off, it will assign random colors. So sometimes it's nice to have random colors, sometimes not. So anyways, when you click on No Edge Removal, it's going to get rid of that, and now all I have to do is just clean this up. Now sometimes 3ds Max gives strange results here, so I like to go ahead and use Rapid Tools, Cleanup, Rapid Mesh Cleanup, find mid-edge vertices, and to remove that. We can see now, instead of all the cleanup we have to do right here, it's very easy. All I have to do is just, I like to use snaps with cut with vertex snap on. So all I have to do is just do a quick cut operation like this, given the stats. So what I can do is just kind of ring and deselect that, insert a loop, and then there we go. And also we can select these two vertices and connect them. So if you're going to use creases, you can go ahead and set them up. If you're going to use support loops, you can just do that as well. Oh, it looks like it did not go through here. So you can see it didn't go through here. There's a problem here. We got to figure out what the problem is. As you can see, there's something preventing this from going through. There may be an extra vertex right here. So let's do a quick little check. What is causing the problem? All right, is it this one? All right, okay. So for some reason, if you get to a situation where the loop isn't going through, what I like to do is just select all vertices and do a quick weld operation. All right. If that doesn't work, go ahead and convert to editable mesh and then convert to editable poly. And as you can see, it works now. After using Swift Loop, you can go ahead and hold down Control Alt and then left click to even out the loop. And so as you can see, guys, having the right number of sides when using cylinders really just makes it easier as opposed to having to deal with all this right here. All right, lesson number 3 is that if you're going to retopologize this, or if you don't care about subdivision, you can just throw it out the window and have more complexity. So in this situation, if I don't want to have subdivision, then you want to have more sides because subdivision won't be able to smooth things out. You see, in this example, I can have it very simple here because subdivision will take care of that given the smoothness. But if subdivision is off the table because of the bad topology, then you want to go ahead and have more sides here because you won't be subdividing. So I can just take this cylinder and I can just click on cylinder right here and I can just increase number of sides. You know, something like this, and that way we can just rely, for example, on at render time a little bit of edge chamfering right here to get that done, or we just of course slap a chamfer modifier on there. So a lot of times when I will quickly just model a piece, when I'm not concerned about subdivision, for example, I'll just model a piece, I will subdivide it, because, you know, this is way too simple and angular, so I'm going to subdivide it. I'm going to quickly, for example, populate this with details like so. And I can quickly just Boolean that away. And kind of quickly render this when I'm doing like quick content design. But if I was concerned about subdivision, I would not have it so high. I would maybe go with something like, I think one might be too simple because it's hard to get a lot of details in here with such simple topology. So I need to go with at least 1 or 2. And then you can see it will be much easier to insert new details into here. And then I would go with something like I would use dot ring here. Remove that and maybe do that again. And I will now Boolean this into here. And as you can see, it will make this much easier to fix up. Another thing to think about is how you will add smaller, more complex details. So of course, one way to do this is by combining lots of details together. So for example, you take this, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of move that down, and I'm going to go ahead and scale that. All right, so you combine this with, let's say, a box. I'm going to put Shift A on here. All right. I'm going to go ahead and just quickly insert loops and turbo smooth this. Trying to get a quick pill shape. Alright, let me just see how far that goes. Alright, something like that. And for example, I will, you know, do that right here, but this time I will kind of rotate it. Alright, and we'll put that in here. Alright, and then I'm going to symmetry. I will select mirror, Alt A to select right there. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and select these, and I'm going to go ahead and link them to that. Alright, so I've just created this kind of a mishmash of various things. And so what I can do is just kind of quickly copy this out here. I can create a sphere, for example, And let me go ahead and increase the segments. Alright, so I can select this. I can use the clear text script or select in place. I'll quickly put this on here. And then I can just Boolean that away. So as you can see, this is a very quick way to add these kinds of details here. But if I was going to fix this up, you can see this would be kind of very difficult to fix up because of how complex it is. So if I wanted to create an object that I can kind of apply on here and be able to fix up rather easily, I can go ahead and do this in a different way. What I can do is create a box right here and then Shift A to move there. And I can just kind of move that down like that. I can go ahead and subtract these things to get this. And then I can go ahead and delete all this. And now what I would do is use the slice modifier, kind of rotate at the subobject level and remove that, and kind of copy that and paste that. And let's remove that. And now what I can do is use Topology. I think it's I'm going to quickly use smooth on that and read Topology again to get something like this. As you can see, this gives me a much simpler object that I can work with. I probably do want to have something out here as well. So what I'm going to do to get that is I'm going to just extrude that out. Because I do actually want to have some surface area right here. Alright. I'm going to apologize again. As you can see now, this gives me something that I can apply to a surface to make it easier to apply these kinds of details. So then what I would do is kind of place this on here, and I would use tie conform. And I would use, so I'm using volume with some offset right here. Just kind of plug it onto that surface there. We can continue kind of moving it like that. And so now what I could do is just make a cut around here, turning on split. And let me go ahead and collapse that. Alright, so as you can see now, it's just a much easier matter of attaching it together here. Loading vertices, or at least these ones right here. And now I can just go in here and use target weld to just kind of weld it together. Alright, when you're doing this kind of patch job, what you can do is go into border, kind of select this, and you can see there's still some holes here, so you can kind of maybe weld there. Alright, perhaps we can just go ahead and convert to editable mesh, and then back to editable poly, and then just do a quick weld here, and that should probably fix the issue. There we go. So here I'm showing two ways of doing things. One is of course faster, it's slappier. The other one is just, more of a subdivision. Of course, the topology here is not perfect, but if you just spend some time, the important thing here, guys, especially working on a curved surface, is make sure you have enough density here that having a triangle here and there is not going to mess things up too much. So, I can remove this and maybe get a quad right there. But in many situations, a triangle will not impact things negatively too much. And of course, it's very difficult to get a perfect all quad result here. You need to spend some time. I mean, it is possible in many situations, but it may not be worth it in many situations. You can just kind of work with this and try and get as many quads as you can, but triangles will not be a problem if you have enough density on your curved surface. Alright, so there we go. And one more tip I have for you is that if you are going to use automatic retopology solutions, then you should make it as complex as you can as well. So to give an example, let's create a sphere right here. Alright, so let's say I will have another sphere right here, for example. Alright, so we've got that. So I'm going to have, let's also shrink that. So we're going to have two situations. In this one, I'm going to decrease the segments to that, and I'm going to also decrease segments to this, right? So we're going to keep it very simple here. In fact, these are not even connecting. There we go. So, okay, this is maybe a little bit too simple. Let's go with something like this, and this has that. With this one, we're going to make things, complex to 64. So we're going to go ahead and Boolean that away, and we'll go ahead and Boolean that away as well. So the problem here is that because of how simple it is, the retopology solution may not even recognize this as a sphere anymore after we're done with it. So if I go into retopology, and let's say have 55. As you can see, we kind of get this. Okay, it's actually not too bad. But let's retopology this and also enter in 55. Well, you're going to notice right away that the topology, just right off the bat, is better here. Because on the right here, we get these really clean loops going around here. Whereas if we try and do the same thing here, you can see we can try and follow it, but it's not a loop anymore. We got this happening here. So if we try and follow this, you can see if I select this and loop this, it selects everything because it just keeps going around everywhere. It just keeps following. It just keeps following the topology. And it just keeps following it. And it just keeps following it. So like right away, the topology is not as good if you have things too simple. But also with this example, what if we want things to be a little bit more complex? What if this sphere is a little bit too simple? What if we use retopology and we went to like 500, for example? So let me enter now 555. You can see that it actually has to try and make things more complex. You can see how it actually goes from this to that. But because of how simple it is in the first place, when I subdivide this, we get this very kind of angular, splotchy result, as you can see here. Especially if you turn up the contrast. That's because it's trying to go from less complex to more complex. So if you have this complexity of a sphere, you can only do less complex than this. You can't do more complex because it doesn't know what to do with it, so you get this very splotchy result. Whereas with this situation, because of how complex it is, we could very easily do 500 because it can handle 500 because it has that complexity inherent in it. So because of how complex it is, it can very easily go to 555. And you can even go to maybe like 755 or let's say 1000 because it already has that smoothness within it. So the complexity you have at the beginning, guys, is your limit. Whereas here, this simplicity can only go simpler and simpler. We can't have this be more smooth, otherwise you get really bad results. So if you're going to use automatic retopology solutions, it's best to have more complexity at the beginning. That way you just have more options. You have 1000 available to you, you have 500 available to you, you have 255, you have 55, you have 25, right, they're all available to you. Whereas in this situation here, 1000 will give us this. You can see what that gives us. It can't make things more complex. 750 not available. 500 looks pretty bad. 300 still getting pretty bad results. 200 splotchiness here. 100 still probably not as good as what we get here on the right. So if you're going to use automatic retopology, guys, have it more complex. Thank you for watching and take care.